Plumbing Bid Manager, Program Setup. A good place to start with the program is the program setup. This is where you will enter some information that is pertinent to your company, your contact information, and some information about how you log into the system, and some of the information we'll set up for your labor rates and your sales tax. We'll start at the top under Settings, go to Program Settings, and then Company. So here you'll type in your company name, your address, city, state, and zip, your phone number, and your fax number. The company name prints on virtually all of the reports in the system. You'll also see the phone and fax and the other information as far as your address on some of the reports as well. We'll press OK to close this window. Back up under Settings this time, we're going to go to the default settings for jobs. Every time you create a new job in the program, there are some default settings that come into play so that you don't have to re-enter or adjust things like your sales tax rates and your labor rates that will typically be the same from job to job. Of course, when you're in a job, if you need to adjust them, you can. Under Job Allocation, the second tab, right below that, we're going to go to the default for sales tax. We're going to set that to 7.5%. Again, this would be the rate that you pay when you buy materials at your local supply house. In most areas, the tax is only applied to material. Back up under Job Settings, next we're going to go to the Extension tab, and then right under that to Direct Labor Rates. This is where you set up your crew mix and your rates, your cost of labor per hour. We'll start with the brand new one. We're going to type in the company name so that when you go back and look at this later, you know that it's something you set up for your company. So let's say that our typical crew mix is 1 journeyman and 1 helper. That would be a percentage of 50 to 50. 50% of the hours would be done by a journeyman and 50% by a helper. The base rate would be the hourly rate, the average hourly rate that a journeyman with your company sees on their paycheck. Let's say it's $28 an hour. The burden can be entered as a dollar amount or percentage. This represents all the additional costs to the employer related to the employee's pay. For example, this will typically include federal and state payroll taxes, the portion that's paid by the employer. It should also include workers' comp. It should also include general liability insurance and any additional benefits. So that would include medical insurance or any other benefits that are paid to the employee. These two columns are connected to each other. So if I enter one, it'll figure the other and vice versa. I'm just going to put in 35% for now. Again, that's not intended to be a typical amount or a number that you should use if you don't know what your number is. You need to go to your bookkeeper or accountant maybe to find out what your labor burden is if you don't know what it is right off the top of your head. So 35% of 28 would be $9.80 per hour. On the helper, we'll enter a rate of $15 per hour, and we'll put in the same burden percentage. So down at the bottom, it tells us that our average cost per hour is a little over $29 an hour. That's a composite rate. Now again, these are just defaults. We can always change them within the job, and we can have more than one setup. For now, we're going to make this the default, so we hit Make Default. So now when we start a new job, this is what it'll use. OK, we'll close this window. OK, we'll close this window. So just one more thing in the setup. We're going to go up to Settings and User Maintenance. This is where you can add in your name and password and login information. So at the bottom, let's just add a new user. We would put in just your first name usually. For the full name, we want your first and last name. Now again, this will appear on some of the reports. So go ahead and enter it, your complete name, usually an uppercase, lowercase if you prefer. Your password can be anything you want it to be. We'll keep it simple. We'll just use my first name. For the initials, we want 2 or 3 letters. On a standalone system, the user level would typically be administrator. That means you have access to all the setup we've done so far. If you need to go in and change labor rates and sales tax rates, or you need to set up, the administrator level will give you access to that. If you have the Pro version, check that now. Otherwise, you can just press OK. Close that window. Now we're going to log out of the program just to save all those settings. And when we start it up again, this time you'll type in your name and your password and log in. You probably want to check this box to save the name and password so you don't have to type it in every time. And this will bring us into the main screen. This concludes the end of the program setup.